The season was on the line. You had no room for error whatsoever. This was a winnable game, and you made every single mistake possible to lose this one to Northwestern. Penn State, James Franklin deserved this.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm stunned. I'm stunned. I'm stunned because there was no fight in this team. Nobody wanted to be here. From the coaches to the players on the football field to the guys on the sideline, they showed no fight, no energy, no grit. And that is why they deserve this loss. You're locked on to Penn State football. We are here at Beaver Stadium. Just up above outside the media room, outside of the press box. And the stadium is cleared out. Northwestern wins 22-21, and Penn State's season is officially over. We basically bookmarked it last season. Probably should have done that. Last week, we bookmarked it and said, this season's over because there's no way they beat Ohio State. There's no way they beat Indiana. Little did I know that there was no way they were going to beat Northwestern of all teams. There's no spinning this. There's no spinning it anymore. Best personnel group in your coaching tenure, James Franklin. Forgive any background noise because we are here at the stadium, and I appreciate everyone joining the live show here. This was a winnable bounce back type of game. And the penalties, just getting pushed around by Northwestern. I get it. Northwestern's a physical team. They play disciplined football. But again, your talent should be able to just outweigh all of that. And when you had the opportunity, because the reasons were, well, we can't succeed. We can't get past 10-2 because we don't have the best coordinators. Okay, well, you got that opportunity. You got Jim Knowles and you got Andy Kotelnicki. Whether they're what they are, you still had the opportunity to go and choose the best coordinators. You got the donations to assemble this roster and retain it. Drew Allar, which, God forbid, I hate to see him get hurt like that. I absolutely feel gutted for him, for everything that he's done in his season is, from the bird's eye view, probably over with the way that he was carted off. You brought back Drew Allar. You brought back Nicholas Singleton. You brought back Katron Allen. Denied Dennis Sutton, Zane Durant. And then you add Jim Knowles. You retain Andy Kotelnicki. You add Jim Knowles. You add Stan Drayton to offset the loss of J1 Sider. You had Amari Campbell. You had Trevor Pena. This was supposed to be the team that shattered that stigma, right? And I understand still going 10-2 and losing the games that you should against Oregon and Ohio State, but not this. This team packed it in. They gave up. That is on James Franklin. That's on the coaching staff, because this is a veteran coaching staff. These are veteran players. It's not like this lineup was completely brand new. This was a new look team. You had been together, aside from Jim Knowles' first season in State College. Who knows? Maybe the only, right? We'll talk about what's next here, because firing James Franklin becomes more certain. Again, losing to Ohio State, Indiana down the road is one thing. Letting your season end after the Oregon game is disgraceful. It's not unacceptable. Why? We just can't accept that. No, it's disgraceful. It's insulting. It's insulting to the donors that put their money into this team, into their program. It's insulting to the fans who supported these teams and said, you know what, we can do more, we can be better, right? We still believe. It's insulting. So that's what's disappointing, is the fact that, okay, you didn't lose to Northwestern because Northwestern was the better football team. You lost because you beat yourselves. You gave no effort. Players looked like they didn't want to be there. They looked disappointed. They looked depressed, right? There was just no energy on the sideline. And that was the thing we called out after the press conference. We called it out at the press conference. We talked about, hey, you know, Northwestern, this should be another upset watch type of game. But now the season's officially over. Is James Franklin's tenure officially over? That is to be determined, because if James Franklin didn't have the $56 million buyout, if this coaching staff, because it's not, it's just James Franklin. If you're Pat Kraft, you are in an insanely difficult position, because James Franklin, after this, deserves to be fired. I hate saying that and calling for another man's job. But I don't know how else to look at it when Northwestern and UCLA are extremely winnable games. You didn't go through a gauntlet. You didn't play Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana back-to-back. That is a completely different scenario. But when you lose at home to Northwestern, when you lose to UCLA, who had a makeshift coaching staff, and I know they beat Michigan State. Okay, so what? They're riding a heat wave right now. They're on fire. You had an opportunity to maintain the Oregon loss, and you let one loss turn into two and turn into three with this super roster and this super coaching staff. If Franklin did not have his buyout, because I don't think Penn State's still going to do it. I don't think Penn State's going to fire him right now, because then they are on the hook. Where do you get $56 million when you're in the middle of a stadium rebuild? Where do you get the additional resources to, because do you go back to the donors? You can't go back to the donors after they just funded this roster and this coaching staff. Mainly the roster. The coaching staff's on the administration. The roster is on the boosters. We just need Trevor Pena. We just need Amari Campbell. Just bring back Rhule. We just bring back Singleton, Allen. Well, we have it. We'll go get Jim Knowles. We'll make him the highest paid defensive coordinator. Trust me. And your season ended in what week? What week are we in officially? Week 7. Your season ended in week 7. You didn't just go 9-3 and miss the playoffs. That was kind of the line. That was the line in the sand. Hey, you got to make a move if that happens, right? Your season ended in week 7. I'm gutted for the seniors that came back and, they foregoed an early opportunity into the NFL because Drew Allar had first-round discussions, all gone. Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen's doing just fine, but Singleton and Allen, respectively, still. The season's over. There's nothing to play for. But that was only a reality for all of us after this game went final. For some reason, the season was over for Penn State, the football team, after Oregon in the whiteout game. Don't ask me why, don't ask me how. But that is where the frustration should lie. It is one thing to lose football games. It's one thing to not show up, to not care when everything else was still in front of you. And then make the excuses, well, we're just like Ohio State. They went 10-2. What made you think you were going to go 10-2? So here we are. The season's over. Penn State, we'll continue to discuss it. What does this look like now? Because it's not just about the 56 million. It is about, and you lose on homecoming too, in front of all the alumni. Like I said, I didn't even give the alumni the shout out. It's disgraceful. It's an insult to the donors, to the alumni, to the fans, to the students, that this team's season ended so early. And it was Penn State, the team's fault. It was their own fault. All right, we got to take a time out to, give a shout out to our wonderful, great sponsors. And we're also going to hear from the live chat. Friendly reminder, please keep it cordial. While it is frustrating, I want to have a conversation with all of you, but I know where things stand. I know where we're at. Okay. So thank you for joining me on this live edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, talk more about what the future holds for Penn State football. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIH Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail. From the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery, you can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From the smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Maximize your investments, increase your savings rate, easily review finances with your partner or a financial advisor, keeping a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's right, 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. It's a sad day. It's a disappointing day on homecoming of all days to recognize the alumni. I'm an alum myself, but I'm here to talk about the team. That doesn't mean anything to me in the scheme of things. I'm just, it's interesting because there's two ways that you can look at this. You look at it as one, hey, it's the end of everything, but also it's the start of something new. You would like to think that it's the start of something new. This needed to happen. There's no way. For the people that have been saying that James Franklin has never been the right guy for, who knows, maybe it's been the past couple of years, maybe it's been the past 5 years, maybe it's been ever since he stepped on campus. This was an event. This was a situation that needed to happen to provoke that kind of necessary change, if and when it's going to happen. But I don't know what's going to happen. I wish I could sit here and say that, yes, Penn State is going to do the thing that needs to be done at this point. But with a $56 million buyout, with the buyout that you would have to pay for the entire staff, because if James Franklin is fired, that means Jim Knowles is gone. And that's, everybody is going to say, okay, well, that's right. That's justified. But then Penn State, the administration, is on the hook for an estimated $100 million. Whoa, why did that just double all of a sudden? James Franklin's buyout, if you choose to do that today or in the next week or something, if he doesn't want to be fired and says, pay me my buyout, I'm not going anywhere, pay me my buyout, and then you can fire me. James Franklin has all the leverage. But then on top of that, you liquidate the staff, which means you have to pay the buyout for Jim Knowles, Andy Kotelnicki, Terry Smith, Phil Trout went right. The rest of I don't think everybody would be relieved of their duties alongside James Franklin, but eventually you would have to pay up for those receipts. So it wouldn't, James Franklin would be today, and it's not a $56 million lump sum cash delivered to him, right? But know that Penn State has to pay probably over $100 million with paying out the staff, paying out James Franklin, and also paying a new staff. Okay. So here's the other complicated part of this. Not only if you want to make this move to fire James Franklin, you are jeopardizing the future staff. You are making it such an uphill battle because the administration can't afford to pay $100 million in some form of lump sum or quickly to a displaced staff, deserved or not. If you have to pay that out, okay, you're going to have to ask the donors and the boosters to make those payments, which means the next coaching staff comes into Penn State and it's an uphill battle for what, 3, 4, I don't know how many years. This isn't a 1 to 2 year problem. Oh, this will be fine after one season. You just got to get through the 1 year. No, in this age of the transfer portal and NIL where cash is king, cash is everything. And Pat Kraft started a stadium renovation, and that's not his fault because very few of us, there were probably a handful of people that said Penn State's going to fall flat on its face. They'll go 8-4 or something like that. I don't think anybody foresaw this. Northwestern, UCLA, all of that, because I never had that on my bingo card. But that's why this is so complicated. It's not as easy as fire Franklin, push the button now. You doom your future coaching staff if you go in that direction. So I'm not advocating for, everything will be okay, keep Franklin, but that's not what I'm saying. But just know that this is what you're doing. It is an extreme domino effect if and when you make this move. Appreciate everybody joining the live show here. Let's jump into the live chat. That's my opening monologue here. That's the no notes. No notes. I don't have any notes. How could I? What is there to analyze? They lost 22-21 to Northwestern. What is there to analyze from this game? Are you kidding me? Oh, so we'll thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Coach Franklin is a good man and a great recruiter. I have no qualms with James Franklin as a person. I don't. But as a coach, I just cracked under the pressure. I have more thoughts on what went wrong for Penn State, right? Coach Franklin is a good man, a great recruiter, an average coach at best. Summed it up. And a horrible in-game coach. He got the job because he is a safe guy. Well, he went 9-3 at Vanderbilt. So if we're really looking all the way back, James Franklin did a lot of good things for this program at the time. But you can't reach. We now have the full answer. People were accurate in predicting he's not the guy. He will never get you to the promised land. He'll get you here, but he'll never get you to the promised land. Oh, how you were right. You were completely right on that. Franklin lost me when he was so classless with his comments a few years back with Pitt. Okay, interesting angle. Now he's lost the team. Not sending my kid to Penn State's business school. What a horrible contract. Okay, so we're taking a little bit of a different angle now. We're in an interesting situation where it's only going to be, I got to gather my train of thought again. So like I said, we're here at Beaver Stadium. We're just gonna continue to talk about it. Continue with the live chat here. All right. So what happened to Rhule? I just got a text from Zane. People know him. He's an associate producer to the podcast. Rhule is done for the year. That's confirmed. Probably a leg injury or a lower body injury. Let's just say that, because I didn't see exactly what happened. But yeah, Allar was carted off the field. Reporters that were on the sideline at the time were posting that he was frustrated. He was vulgar. And Now, Drew's done for the season, but the season's over. And that's why I feel so gutted for Drew, because he talked about being in the Lash building, talked about just giving it his all. And I think in hindsight's 2020, did Drew do too much? Did Drew exhaust himself with, you can only watch so much film. You can only practice so much. You can only do so much that's humanly possible until you overcorrect. But there was a lot to correct. I'm never going to fault a guy for putting in the extra effort, for putting in the work. That's why I feel so gutted for Drew, because I know that Drew's a hard worker. I know he has the work ethic, and I just wish him the best. I hate to see he falls on the sword for Penn State quarterbacks. People will dunk on Anthony Morelli or probably, Zach Mills. Zach Mills wasn't really necessarily that legacy quarterback that led Penn State to a lot of seasons, but Drew is now going to be made out to be a villain because of those big game moments, lack thereof, right? And I just feel, because I know that Drew Allar's a good person, and the performances he's going to be remembered for, botching them, the Oregon game, which one, right? The Oregon whiteout game, Oregon in the Big Ten championship, the Notre Dame game. That's what he's going to be remembered for. And Allar was supposed to, I think a lot of this, okay, we could frame it from a bunch of different angles. I'm trying to take a step back here, look big picture, because Penn State, Allar was supposed to be the savior at QB, and he wasn't. He's far from it. So this is a twofold thing that kind of keeps popping up in my mind. One, Penn State suffocated itself under its own pressure. This was manufactured pressure by Penn State. Am I guilty of it too? Because I hyped up this team. I mean, I'm dead wrong, but I don't think Penn State, the football team, doesn't succeed or does not succeed based on what I say. They have control on the football field. They don't care what I say. They go to the practices and everything else. But they put that pressure on themselves, particularly James Franklin, where Franklin said, this is the best personnel group that I've ever had. We got the best defensive coordinator in all of college football. We brought back Andy Kotelnicki. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, how could you argue with that? How could you argue with any of that? I believe that this team was talented, had the right pieces. So then what went wrong? Pressure. What was it? It's Matty Fresh, who came on the show, Matt Freiler. You know him as the artiste, Matty Fresh. So I'll shout him out. Said that Nick Saban says this a lot. You take the rat poison. That's what this Penn State team did. They crumbled under their own pressure. That because this was the season to get past 10-2. This was the season to get to a national title. And it truly was. I don't take fault for framing this as national title or bust because of the way that the team was framed, what you had returned. Because when did you have another opportunity to do this? When are you bringing back a fourth-year quarterback, 2 fourth-year running backs, your entire offensive line? It's insult to injury. And with respect to Drew Allar, I don't mean that as some sort of pun. You brought in the defensive coordinator that led a national championship winning team and had them within the top 3 and showed major progress from a top 50 group to top 10 to number 1 last season. The Jim Knowles turnaround, granted, the talent was there, because I see that a lot, that, Jim Knowles needs maybe, I still think Jim Knowles is a good DC. But I think bottom line is you can't tell me that Allar doesn't have talent. You can't tell me that Singleton and Allen don't have talent. Denai Dennis Sutton doesn't have talent. All of those guys, I could rattle them off. So they folded under the pressure of expectations. And how you manage that, I mean, that's your job. That's why you're paid millions of dollars, right? So that's the double whammy that I look at, that Penn State crumbled under its own pressure. And I mean, couldn't even get back to their average, their general average there. So was this team overrated? I mean, absolutely. I mean, across the board, absolutely, this team was overrated. it wasn't as good. It was a good roster. It was a talented roster, but clearly not to the level, because then, like I said, you should be able to out talent them. If you're getting out coached, if you're getting out executed, talent's eventually going to outweigh that. No. So I say that, oh, well, they had good players on this team, but then I say they're overrated. Where does the overrated comes from? The collective group of, Penn State just didn't have what was necessary, right? I look at a Jim Knowles defense that needs larger defensive tackles because of the gap assignments that they have. They don't have that, and you expose that. The depth. You have the depth at linebacker, or lack thereof. Tony Rojas gets hurt, and all of a sudden the defense just absolutely crumbles. But again, I go back to the fact that, okay, that might all be right. Hindsight might be 2020. Andy Kotelnicki's not as good of a play caller. Same thing with Jim Knowles. The depth isn't there. Concerns at, with quarterback, with how much Drew Allar can take this team, how far he can take this team, but also that you packed it in. You packed it in after the Oregon game. No fight. And you went up there, James Franklin went up to the podium and said, well, yeah, our season's still in front of us. Act like it. All right, I got to take another break because I'm past overdue, and I know the live chat is very active, and I can't, unfortunately, get to thousands of comments, but I do appreciate you checking out this live show as we vent our way through it. We'll talk about it more. Penn State losing to Northwestern, season's over. More to come on this live postgame show here from Beaver Stadium. And today's episode is also brought to you by SupplyHouse. And today's episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? SupplyHouse has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs when every detail matters, and their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and a dedicated support line make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great phone system you've heard me talk about before, but just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That is QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Again, tons of appreciation to each and every one of you for joining me here on a live post-game show as the season is officially over. Ethan Grunkemeyer gets a head start on what he wants to do for better or for worse, right? It comes at the cost of Drew Allar's health, and that's, I hate that. Like I said, I hate that for Drew. The players that, especially the seniors that transferred in looking for a better opportunity, Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson, Devontae Ross, I imagine those guys will still play. James Franklin was pretty adamant that the young guys weren't really going to play, so it's definitely worth those guys playing at this point in time. Rotate in Kobe Howard, rotate in Tyser Denmark. If Quentin Martin, Cam Wallace, and Corey Smith are all available, you should very well play them. I think you should rotate them in. So we'll keep going with the comments where I can. Like I said, I can't answer everybody, but I do appreciate the support here. Appreciate the super chat. Do we finish positive, and or is the locker room gone? Locker room's far gone. The way that James Franklin was kind of handling the media and answering questions this week in his press conferences led me to believe that the group had already tapped out. I just couldn't believe what he was saying, and I don't mean that as a like, how could you say that? I mean that as a like, I genuinely couldn't believe that. I think you're lying to me, or I think you're trying to convince yourself otherwise, that the team's still with it. This group can rally, because you're not acting like it. You don't seem inspired, and you're the head coach. You're the face of the program. So I'm supposed to believe that these 18 to 22-year-olds are look and sound and act completely different? No. You're a reflection of them. So if you're not showing any inspiration, what does that mean for them? And you're not, the whole idea that Penn State is concealing plays or they're saving something for Oregon. They saved a couple of wrinkles here and there, but there's no, sometimes you just got to read what's going on, what's in front of you. And I take fault for that, because hey, the writing was there. Okay, Nevada wasn't pretty, but there were some signs. And then okay, whoa, FIU was bad, but they're looking forward to Oregon. I said that. I'm not afraid to admit where I was wrong. And Villanova, still not pretty, but man, why are you struggling with an FCS team? You have the bye week, that didn't matter. And then until the fourth quarter, you didn't show up against Oregon. And then you let that Oregon game determine the rest of your season. That's the problem that I have, is that the Oregon game just finished the season for Penn State, the football team. And it didn't need to be like that. You have the 12-team playoff. You talked about it. James acknowledged it. Hey, it's a 12-team playoff. We have room for this. We can lose. We can drop a game. And the season still wasn't technically over after UCLA, but I just couldn't buy into, okay, well, if they run the table, they got to beat Ohio State and Columbus. They got to beat Indiana. Nebraska and Iowa get a little tougher. Ooh, the odds of them being perfect for the remainder of the season are not likely. But you still could have done it, and you didn't act like it. I was expecting something different. It just seemed like across the board they had given up, like there was nothing to play for. And that's what's going to be frustrating at the end of the day, because that wasn't the case. It wasn't the case that there was anything to not play for. Now there isn't. I totally understand the team packing it in. So when you say, is the locker room gone? Yes, it absolutely is. What is there to play for? What is there to play for? Again, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the donation. This doesn't even feel real. I can't believe it ends like this. I suppose I'll be hauling the equipment to the Pinstripe Bowl this season. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say you have no right. You need to step back and not support the players, and because they're still going to go out there and play a remainder of the season. But now the future begins. You're getting a really a long head start on next season. And I'm trying to make sure that nothing has transpired since, meaning that James Franklin has been fired, because I'm peeking on social media to make sure that I'm not missing any updates that but like I said, we're kind of all assuming it's going to happen, but Pat Kraft does really have a difficult decision to make in terms of how do you want to move forward, because $100 million to set up the next coaching staff for ruin when NIL is a thing is not feasible. It's not. You can objectively say that. Well, it's worth it to get rid of Franklin. I get that, but you do have to think about, if you want Penn State football to succeed after Franklin, then you can't just jeopardize the next coach just to prove a point of some sort. So Franklin and Kraft need to have a serious conversation about all this. You mentioned, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. You mentioned that Ohio State has more resources than Penn State. Please explain again, since they are both state schools. Thank you. I mean, the numbers back that up. That's not just my opinion. That's the numbers actually legitimately back up Ohio State. Ohio State's the most profitable and the most, I guess, for lack of a better word, rich. They're just the richest, most successful football program from a revenue standpoint. Being located in Columbus, a state capital, certainly helps. I hope I don't have that wrong. Geez, I should know my geography. But I'm second guessing myself on that. So, but I talk about sports. I know Columbus, but being in a place like Columbus where there are Fortune 500 companies that are set up is a lot more advantageous for Ohio State than Penn State in the middle of State College, in the middle of central Pennsylvania. Yes, you have the largest active alumni network out there, but I'm saying that there is Penn State's not broke. Penn State is not hurting for money, or else they wouldn't be doing a $700 million stadium renovation. They wouldn't be collecting the donations that they are for that. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it is objectively accurate to say that Ohio State has more resources and has more money. They just do. They generate more revenue than Penn State does. There's a reason that Fox takes them every single week, takes that big noon kickoff game and puts Ohio State there, because they get the most viewership out of that game. You get more dollars from it. So, but look at the numbers that Penn State's in the top 10. Michigan, I think, is 5th. If I have this correct, Ohio State is number 1. Ohio State's number 1. Notre Dame might be in the top 3. I don't remember that off the top of my head, but I know that the revenue generation of the programs, Ohio State is firmly number 1, and Penn State's 7 or 8, give or take. Go, and thank you for the super chat. Go get Urban Meyer. Oh no, Urban Meyer is not the answer. I guess we can start talking about potential replacements, potential coaches. And again, I don't know what Penn State's going to do. The easy answer is to say that you got to move on, but I can't sit here confidently say, yes, I'm expecting Pat Kraft to do it, because Billy Napier's still at Florida for the exact same reason. Mike Norvell is still at Florida State unless I missed that. Did Mike Norvell get fired after losing to Pitt today? Maybe. No, I don't think he did. I'm not gonna try to misreport that and spread misinformation. I keep getting updates about Rhule being out for the season. So for anybody that's joining late here, Rhule is out for the season. But again, the season is over. I just feel so. I'm not trying to dunk on that situation. I feel so bad for Rhule. But Drew's out for the season with a lower body injury, since I can't confirm exactly what it is. But he took a hit, and it looked like it was the leg or so. If you want head coaching replacements, Kurt Cignetti going into Oregon the way that they did and winning 30-20. I said that Indiana was that team that was going to move into the upper part of the Big Ten that competes with Oregon and Ohio State. So I'm glad I was right about something this season. I wasn't right about Penn State. I was right about Indiana being that good. Winning 63-10 over a top 10 team like Illinois is nothing to bat an eye at. You buy stock into that. So Kurt Cignetti becomes a head coaching candidate. Kenny Dillingham, Matt Rhule is going to get thrown out there a lot. His name's going to be mentioned. I'm trying to think of some other coaching candidate. Like I said, I don't have notes. I don't have notes for this. This is just a raw reaction to this. Kenny Dillingham, Matt Rhule, Kurt Cignetti, John Summerall at Tulane. I like Will Stein personally. If Penn State wants to find its next Dan Lanning, so to speak, why not work for the understudy of Dan Lanning? Why not the guy that's worked under Dan Lanning and is a quarterback whisperer? Will Stein, I think, would be a great hire. Jeff Brom's another one. But you're kind of going in the similar situation where Kurt Cignetti, even though he's in his mid-60s, gives you the most established situation, actually. I like Kurt Cignetti a ton as a coach. And he's got the Western Pennsylvania connections. He's from the Pittsburgh area, or just outside of the Pittsburgh area. So that would make a ton of sense for Penn State to get another Pennsylvania guy, but to get him away from Indiana that bought him, Tom Allen crawled over broken glass for Curt Cignetti to be able to succeed. They gave him all the resources. They bought into his vision. I don't know that Curt Cignetti even walks away from Indiana because he has it made. It's the same thing. Well, go get Dan Lanning. Make a push for Dan Lanning. Why would Dan Lanning leave? Make a push for Ryan Day. Why would Ryan Day leave? They have the most stability. They have the best setup as you could ever ask for. Why would you trade that when Penn State is going to be fighting uphill if you move on from James Franklin? Appreciate the super chat. Give Franklin time. He just needs time to turn this around. I imagine that is major sarcasm. But Franklin's going to say, let's look at it from Franklin's point of view. Probably not a lot of people that are tuned into this are going to care. Well, who cares what Franklin thinks? They just the season's jeopardized because of him. Franklin's going to say, because I'm trying to theorize, what's this conversation going to sound like between him and Kraft? He's going to say, well, look at all that I've done for the program, and this season was a fluke, and upsets happen and I've seen that from fans. Upsets happen. This type of stuff happens. Penn State's never been in a situation like this. But what are you okay with? It comes down to this debate. Are you okay with 9-3 and 10-2 every year? Are you okay with that? And that seems like the best case scenario at this point. Are you okay with that middling area where 8-4 could be on the table, maybe 9-3 sneaks you into the playoffs, because 10-2 is not just an honest reality anymore. Big Ten's expanded. The Big Ten's better, but you're not even losing to the upper echelon of the Big Ten. You're losing to the bottom of the barrel. Me dismissing Northwestern and UCLA all off season. Who needs to worry about them? Apparently me. I need to, covering the team that I cover, because the Wildcats and Bruins ended Penn State's season. Technically Oregon did. Technically Oregon and Dan Lanning did, because like I said, Penn State packed it in after that game. So Northwestern and UCLA were just the finishing touches. So I'm skipping out on my train of thought again. Appreciate the super chat. Dan Mullen is someone that can turn it around. I'm not a fan of those coaching candidates. My preference is a Kenny Dillingham. He is an Arizona State grad. He's currently at Arizona State. I don't think that you get him. John Summerall is kind of like a James Franklin, where he's not a Power 4 coach, but he's proven that he can win at the Group of 6 level and keep Tulane on the right path. That's a good coach. Jeff Brom at Louisville. My preference is for somebody to have Pennsylvania connections, who checks that box. Matt Rhule. I'm not here to advocate for Matt Rhule, because I know that's Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule is an interesting candidate from the sake of he checks a lot. Like, he checks every box. And do you want every box checked with a new head coach? So let me explain what that means for anybody that's intrigued by that. Rhule checks the box where he could actually appease the past, present, and future of Penn State football, and whether that translates to actual wins or not, or program getting better is to be determined. I think Matt Rhule is a really good coach. For people who don't know, Matt Rhule, he's obviously connected to Penn State. He's from State College, played for Penn State, coached briefly for Penn State. I think he did. He played for Penn State, but he's from State College. He's a Central Pennsylvania guy. So there's the box for Pennsylvania connections. There's the box that he played at Penn State. He played under Joe Paterno. He has success at Temple. Another box that he checks. Well, if Pat Kraft's the AD, guess who's good buddies with Pat Kraft? They're good buddies. Matt Rhule and Pat Kraft go back to Temple together. And Matt Rhule has shown that he can succeed at the likes of a Temple, at a Baylor. Okay, NFL, but that's different. Coaching professional football players versus college student athletes. And then at Nebraska, Nebraska's doing better each year since he took over. Again, and granted, unless I'm mistaken, because I haven't had time to peek in on the college football scoreboard. So before I go down that road, Let me make sure. Okay, they snuck out of, but they still won. Okay, can't say that for Penn State. They still won. Nebraska's has one loss on the season to Michigan, and they're going to come in here to Happy Valley and probably win that game. So the people that throw out the name Matt Rhule, you might say that's a horrible coaching hire. He's not doing anything at Nebraska. He's doing something at Nebraska. He would want the Penn State job. I can't imagine why he wouldn't. He would want the Penn State job. But interestingly enough, Matt Rhule checks all of the boxes between Central Pennsylvania guy, Pennsylvania connections, has shown success at lower level programs. He's close with the current regime because of Pat Kraft, working together at Temple. He's led a Big Ten team because, if you go and get a group of 5 or somebody that's not experienced, you do take that risk. How are they going to handle a brand like Penn State? How are they going to handle a top 10 school? Well, Nebraska, give or take, is in that realm too. They're not firmly in the top 10. I think they're maybe 10th, 11th, or 12th, somewhere around there in terms of revenue generated. But he's now managed that caliber of program in the Big Ten, at the Big Ten level. He knows what it takes. So you might balk at the idea of Matt Rhule, but Matt Rhule is not a terrible candidate. If you disagree with it, that's fine. But to say, no, we would not be interested in Matt Rhule, that doesn't speak on behalf of Penn State if and when they go in a different direction. And again, James Franklin holds all the cards. He'll say, look what I've done for this program for the past decade. If he leverages his buyout and says, because the only way that Penn State really does make a move is negotiating. That's why I think what will happen is Franklin will get a negotiated buyout at the end of the season and Penn State will go in a different direction. I think that and could I be wrong on that? Absolutely. But I think it's realistic to bug flying in here. I think realistically speaking, the way that this goes, because I think James Franklin has somewhat tanked his credibility. He doesn't want to take a demotion. Penn State. Why would James Franklin want to leave Penn State? You have all you have top 10 resources. You built all of this. Why would you want to give that up just because you had a bad season when no one was expecting it? You were successful all the other years, aside from the COVID season and then 7-5 in 2021. But then you bounce back. You 10-2. You're back to your consistent 10-2. So Franklin's not going to want to leave. Why would he? Why would he want to go to Virginia Tech or North Carolina? Because that's the ACC. That conference doesn't have stability. Do those jobs have the same type of stability? Virginia Tech just fired Brent Pry. Bill Belichick in North Carolina are already talking about an exit after one season, allegedly. So why would Franklin want to do that when everything's made for him here? He had it set up that way. So, again, thank you for the super chats. Kurt Signetti would win us a national championship. He's a great football coach. And in terms of chess, I like his energy, the players, but that's what I'm so disappointed in, because I thought Franklin was a high energy guy. I thought Franklin was somebody that, okay, you might question his game day coaching, but in terms of recruiting, in terms of being able to motivate and inspire his team, you can't really fault him there, right? And those have gone out the window. It's okay to say that this timeline has run its course. This tenure for Franklin and company have run its course. I think it's okay to acknowledge that. Because again, the line in the sand is what do you accept? Some Penn State fans might say, okay, hey, it gets us to 10-2, and maybe once every, couple of cycles, we'll be in somewhat of contention for a national championship. Or do you want to be a contender year in and year out, like Ohio State, like Oregon? Now, Oregon went through its troubles. I don't think it's hard for me. Oh, well, Penn State is Nebraska 2.0 or whatever, or Nebraska 3.0 or something like that. Though if they fire James Franklin, they'll never get back to, they'll be 5-7, 6-6, and then maybe they get to 8-4, 9-3. I don't believe that, because Penn State as an institution is higher than what Nebraska is. The resources, the largest alumni network, those kinds of things. Penn State's not in a situation where if they part ways from Franklin, and this is a dream job for a lot of coaches. So you're going to get the best of the bunch. You don't have to settle for any replacements. Penn State's not in a position to settle. They can go get the best candidate. They can identify the candidate that they want and go get that candidate. We haven't even talked about the game itself. I mean, because in the scheme of the things, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't like the way that Penn State called it fairly accurately in regard to how Penn State was going to approach using Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. Okay, actually, no, I was wrong, because I thought that it would be something like 20 snaps or 20 carries to 15 carries. No, Allen got double the carries that Singleton did, but in the most consequential parts of the game, Allen still was on the sideline, and I just disagree with that. Just because Singleton is slightly faster than Katron doesn't mean that Katron can't be your receiving back and can't be a guy that stays in there and blocks for Rhule on situations. Devontae Ross had a heck of a game. But like I said, in the scheme of things, none of that matters. Guess we can jump back into the comments section and see where I picked up where I left off. Not very far, like I said. It's just kind of reactions like this. You got to be kidding me. Yeah. Just a lot of laughing. And I don't know if these people are Penn State fans or if people just kind of cheering on the downfall of Penn State and what it was this season. And I agree. We should not have to meet up like this under these circumstances. No, I wholeheartedly agree. I'd like to have these discussions on much better terms. I don't enjoy talking about somebody being fired, players being benched. None of that. I want to actually talk about the X's and O's, the box score, what the analysis of the game. But we'll have plenty more conversations around this one. We're getting close to an hour, so I think it's fair to kind of cap this off. Penn State losing to Northwestern 22-21. Penn State losing its season in week 7. They're 3-3. You can play for pride, you can play for personal gain, but it's over officially. It was over in my mind last week after UCLA. I didn't see how Penn State could rebound, circle the wagons, but now it's officially over. And we'll see what direction Penn State goes in, because like I said, it's not easy to part ways with James Franklin. There's 100 million reasons why that is not the case. So I appreciate each and every one of you for checking out this live show. Support on the channel. We're going to have follow-up live shows for this, follow-up reactions, analysis to talk about what's next. But until then, thank you. Appreciate each and every one of you. If you're watching this and you came to the game, safe travels, going home and everything. And that's where we're going to conclude it. I don't know how else to wrap this up any other way. But my name is Seyko. I'm your host of Locked On Nittany Lions. As always, we do this daily. We'll talk about all your favorite Penn State sports teams, for better or for worse, right here on Locked On Nittany Lions.